I'm going to do a session on spot color halftones. And one of the things you want to be aware of as a screen printer is how halftones work and where and how you want to use them and what they're really for. Now, some of you that have already been working with halftones, this is very fundamental stuff, but I just wanted to do a quick session on understanding spot colors and halftones. A couple of things you need to be aware of as a screen printer, especially if you're just getting started. So we'll go ahead with the foundation here, the fundamentals. What I've got here on screen is a couple of different gray scales. Actually, I guess you could call it a green color scale, a gray scale, and then a halftone gray scale. And halftones are really nothing more than a way to simulate color through dots. And you can see we've got a black and white grayscale here going from 100% black all the way down to 0 black, which is white. And next to it I've got a grayscale image, and the dots come in different densities and sizes going down through the grayscale. As you can see here, as we go down into lighter colors of gray, the dots get smaller. And these are set up to simulate different shades, tones, or color. Now in CorelDRAW, these are known as densities of spot color. If you have a 50% density, we'll come over here and take a look at our green, and we'll watch our status bar down here and see what we get. You notice as we go down, we've got 100% green here. Here we've got 90% green. Come down here and we've got 20% green. So really all halftones are is a way of creating the illusion of tone or shades of color based on dots. Now one thing you want to be aware of up here in the top, if you're dealing with screen printing, there's some things you want to be aware of. Up here in the 90%, we'll get into this to another session, you're going to have dot gain that'll probably close. You won't be able to hold that. And when you get down here to the bottom at 10% dot, those will also probably not be able to get ink through those very well or even be able to hold those dots. So when you're in screen printing, you're not really going to deal with the ranges at the top or the bottom, and that's why in SimpleSeps we set up our tinted palettes so that you can control increments and from and to 15 to 85%, because you're not going to be able to hold colors lower than that. So we don't want to convert to those colors when we do our conversions. And everything that's in SimpleSeps has been designed not only to do your color separations and deal with color replacement, but to do it effectively based on how you're going to be able to hold dots in your shop and be able to create your art so that you're going to work with densities or tints of color that are going to work with your screens. Very important features and functions in the application based on what's going on with halftones. And if you want to be a successful screen printer, you're going to have to be able to deal with halftones effectively at every level. We'll go ahead to page 2 here, and we'll take a look at understanding LPI. Typically, screen printing shops will work between 35 and 65 LPI. I've got LPI here at 45 to 55. Then we've got 65. Now when you're doing regular spot colors, you're going to be down here in the 40 range. When you get into the high-end stuff, you're going to be up here at 55 and 65 LPI. And you'll notice that as we go up in LPI, we go down in dot size. Our dots become smaller. I'll zoom right in here and we'll go down. And you can see that between 45 and 55, these dots get a little bit smaller. Do the same thing here between 55 and 65. The dots get a little bit smaller. And then when you get down into the the lighter ranges, like 10%, you can see we get much smaller dots. Very hard to hold in screen printing. So you want to be aware of this LPI. Obviously, the higher LPI you've got, the more detail you're going to have in your graphics. Go to page 3 here, and one of the things you'll want to do is print a test page for your company or your screen printing to dial in your equipment. You get some different meshes, some different LPIs, and print some tests. You'll be able to see what you can hold, what you can't. Dial in your screen printing shop as what's good for your printing, what you're able to hold, what you're able to not. If you're not able to hold dots sufficiently, you have to look at upgrading your equipment, maybe a new exposure unit, things like that in your shop. Now what do we use these halftones for? One, we want to be able to create tones of color, and we'll keep this very simple. Looking here, you can see we've got this United Association logo here. Here I've got a monochrome bitmap. I'm going to go ahead and convert this to RGB. This is all set up as dots, but you can see we're going to use the dots, these small dots, to simulate this gray that we have here in this logo. Now Corel does not render these monochrome bitmaps very well. They're actually a lot smoother than what they appear. If you print this out, you won't see any of this jagginess, but it does show up on the monitor. But I'll take this and convert it to an RGB. Bitmap, convert to bitmap, and actually CMYK will be fine. Turn on anti-aliasing and let that process. And what you'll see is that here we have our gray simulated by dots. Very simple, but these dots give us the ability to create multiple shades of color and color from one color. So once we know how to work with halftones, densities, and shades of color, we can create better designs working with 2 or 3 spot colors, which is often what we're working with as screen printers and getting a handle on being able to manage these halftones and present to our client a spectrum of colors from the 2 or 3 colors that we're working with, obviously is going to give us a better product. We're going to be able to compete better, and we're going to get better looking designs in our t-shirts. And let's face it, your customers are buying art on garments, whether it's their logo, a high school football team, what have you. Art on garments is going to help you acquire and keep your clients. Go to our next page here, and we'll take a look here, and you can see here we've got our Lumberjacks football, and I want to go ahead and zoom out here. And we've got our black down here, which is actually our red pulled out as halftones, but in our red we're going to use dots, halftones, from a red to create our flesh tone. So we're creating 2 colors from 1 color, the red in our beard and our football, and also our flesh tone by using halftone dots. I'll go ahead and right click here and change this to a red, and we'll go ahead and convert this to a bitmap also so we can see it. We'll go to bitmap and convert to bitmap, CMYK 300 DPI, that's fine, anti-aliasing on, we'll let that process. And now that it's processed as a CMYK, you actually can see it a little bit better in Corel. But we can see here we've created the illusion of flesh tones with halftone dots. So I think you can start to see now the importance of halftones and why you want to be able to work with them, especially as a screen printer. If you're working with 2 or 3 colors, but you bring in some halftones, you'll be able to increase the spectrum of colors through halftones, or through the illusion of color by halftones in your screen printing. So now you can take a 3-color design and create what looks like a 14 or 15 color design fairly easily, but stay within the constraints of the 2 or 3 colors you're working with as a screen printer. Go here to the next page, we'll come up here and take a look, and here we've got the SimpleSeps logo separated, and we've got dots simulating colors. In the middle here we'd get what would look like our orange, where the yellow and red blend together. Now once again, because this is set up as monochromes, you can't see it very well in DRAW, the way DRAW renders these monochromes on screen, but when you printed this, these inks would mesh together a little bit, and you'd get the illusion of an orange here. So now you've got 3 colors on top of each other, 2 colors on top of each other, blending into each other creates a 3rd color. And I'll go here to page 8 and we'll take a look here, and here we've got a high-end type automotive design, and here you can see we'd have to use a number of dots to create all of these highlighting, shading effects, and different tones and values of color. So you want to understand halftones and how they work, and we'll get into some other things in halftones in the next session, but you want to be very aware of how they work, what they're for, and how to use them. And SimpleSeps gives you many features to be able to control what's going on with your halftone separations, as well as being able to create simple halftones that you can print out on your inkjets and start to work with halftones with, without getting into the expensive high-end rips. Now sometimes you're going to need a high-end rip. If you want to get into high-end simulated process and process printing, you're going to need a high-end rip. But if you're just getting started with screen printing and halftones, the halftones that we generate in SimpleSeps will work. We've had a number of people test them with very good results. So we'll go ahead and wrap here, and we'll continue in our next session.